When Senator Marcus Blackwood became Washington's most powerful political figure, voters trusted him to represent their interests in Congress. But when his methamphetamine addiction and arms trafficking schemes consumed him, he began selling classified weapons to terrorist networks and murdering intelligence operatives who discovered his crimes, turning the Senate floor into a deadly marketplace for international warfare. Before starting the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now let's get back to the video. The winter fog rolled across the Potomac River as Senator Marcus Blackwood organized classified intelligence files and encrypted communication devices for what would become the most dangerous political meeting of his 31-year career as America's most influential senator and chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. At 64 years old, Marcus had established himself as Washington's premier defense policy architect, controlling billions in military appropriations and classified weapons programs that attracted international defense contractors, foreign intelligence agencies, and terrorist organizations who valued his access to America's most sensitive national security information and his reputation for facilitating the most secretive and profitable defense contracts affecting global military conflicts and international warfare. Marcus's Senate office occupied the most secure wing of the Capitol building, featuring classified briefing rooms, encrypted satellite communication systems, and top-secret document storage facilities that allowed him to oversee America's most sensitive intelligence operations, while maintaining absolute control over defense spending and weapons procurement programs that determined the outcome of international conflicts and shaped global military power structures affecting national security and international stability. The interior of Marcus's Senate office reflected his mastery of defense policy and his understanding of the military-industrial complex's expectations for both strategic excellence and absolute secrecy during the most critical national security decisions in American foreign policy, featuring walls displaying military commendations from multiple presidents, photographs of classified weapons testing operations, and testimonials from grateful defense contractors whose weapons programs had been approved through his committee, oversight, and strategic guidance affecting billions in military contracts and international arms sales. But beneath Marcus's reputation for defense policy excellence lay a dangerous combination of methamphetamine addiction, systematic arms trafficking, and calculated murder that had transformed his Senate office into criminal enterprises where threatening intelligence operatives and suspicious investigators met their fate through classified weapons and witness elimination during vulnerable national security briefings. "Good morning, Senator Blackwood," said CIA Director Robert Sterling, arriving for his weekly classified intelligence briefing about ongoing counter-terrorism operations and international weapons trafficking investigations that required Marcus's committee authorization for covert military interventions and classified arms interdiction programs affecting global security operations. Sterling had recently noticed irregular weapons procurement patterns and had begun questioning Marcus's explanations about emergency defense authorizations and classified military contracts that seemed to bypass normal congressional oversight procedures. "Good morning, Director Sterling," Marcus replied with a political authority and defense expertise that had made him legendary among Washington's national security establishment, who viewed him as both strategic mastermind and military guardian capable of navigating the most complex international conflicts while ensuring American military superiority through sophisticated weapons programs and classified defense initiatives that protected national interests during the most dangerous global security crises. "I've reviewed the classified reports on international arms trafficking, and I believe we need to accelerate certain weapons programs to counter emerging terrorist threats and hostile foreign military capabilities." Sterling had become Marcus's most dangerous intelligence contact, not because of his demanding security briefings or his classified information requirements, but because of his recent discovery of unauthorized weapons transfers and his growing awareness of the arms trafficking operation that Marcus had been conducting while supposedly providing congressional oversight of America's most sensitive defense programs and international military operations. What Sterling didn't know was that Marcus had been systematically trafficking weapons and murdering intelligence operatives for over 5 years, using his Senate committee authority and access to classified military arsenals to coordinate international arms sales while eliminating anyone who discovered his coordination with terrorist networks or threatened to expose his criminal exploitation of American military resources for personal profit and international criminal activities. Marcus's transformation from respected senator to calculating killer had begun 7 years earlier, when his methamphetamine addiction had escalated from performance enhancement during demanding Senate sessions to daily dependency on various stimulant drugs that consumed his substantial political income and forced him into desperate relationships with international arms dealers and terrorist organizations who controlled global weapons trafficking networks and offered enormous payments for access to American military technology and classified weapons systems. His addiction had grown to cost over $3,000 per day, while his access to America's most advanced weapons programs had provided unprecedented opportunities for coordinating international arms sales that generated hundreds of millions in profits through coordination with terrorist networks and hostile foreign governments seeking American military technology. Faced with increasing pressure from drug suppliers and potential exposure by intelligence agencies, Marcus had been recruited by international terrorist organizations who recognized his Senate committee authority and weapons access as invaluable assets for obtaining American military technology through unauthorized transfers of classified weapons systems, advanced military equipment, and sensitive defense information that could be used against American forces and allied nations in global conflicts and terrorist operations. His criminal activities had escalated when several intelligence operatives and defense contractors had discovered evidence of unauthorized weapons transfers and had threatened to report their suspicions to congressional ethics committees and federal law enforcement agencies, investigating arms trafficking patterns, targeting America's most sensitive defense programs and classified military operations. Marcus had murdered his first victim, a suspicious Pentagon inspector who had detected irregular weapons inventory records, by orchestrating a terrorist attack using classified explosives during a Senate building tour that appeared to be foreign terrorism rather than domestic political assassination. The success of his first murder had convinced Marcus that eliminating threatening intelligence operatives and suspicious defense investigators was both necessary for protecting his trafficking operation and remarkably achievable given his complete access to classified weapons systems and his to coordinate with international terrorist networks who could stage attacks and eliminate witnesses while providing plausible cover stories involving foreign terrorism and national security threats. Over the following 5 years, Marcus had murdered 14 additional individuals using various classified weapons and terrorist coordination methods that took advantage of his Defense Committee authority, his access to international criminal networks during vulnerable intelligence briefings, and his ability to stage deaths as terrorist attacks or foreign intelligence operations that occurred during routine national security activities with government officials who had access to classified information that could expose international criminal networks and threaten national security operations. His victims had been carefully selected based on their discovery of his criminal activities, their potential cooperation with federal authorities, or their knowledge of classified weapons programs that could expose his international arms trafficking network and terrorist coordination affecting American national security and global military stability. His victims had included Dr. Patricia Williams, a defense intelligence analyst who had discovered evidence of systematic weapons trafficking and whose Pentagon consultation had resulted in fatal car bombing staged by terrorist assets during routine security transport. Jennifer Martinez, a congressional investigator who had reported suspicious arms contracts and whose Capitol Hill office meeting had ended in fatal foreign assassination using classified poison delivery systems obtained through international terrorist networks. And David Foster, a federal counter-terrorism investigator who had been tracking weapons trafficking and whose Senate briefing had resulted in fatal exposure to weaponized biological agents disguised as foreign bioterrorism attack targeting American government officials. Senator Blackwood, I need to discuss some serious concerns about weapons trafficking and reports of unauthorized arms transfers connected to your Defense Committee operations, said FBI Deputy Director Sarah Rodriguez of the Bureau's Counter-Terrorism Division, as she arrived at Marcus's Senate office carrying classified warrants to inspect his committee files and interview him about suspicious defense activities. Deputy Director Rodriguez specialized in investigating domestic terrorism and international arms trafficking and had developed expertise in recognizing patterns of weapons diversion and political corruption that compromised American national security and facilitated terrorist access to classified military technology. Deputy Director Rodriguez's investigation represented an existential threat to Marcus's criminal operation, as her federal counterterrorism expertise and access to classified intelligence databases could expose the systematic arms trafficking operations and connect him to multiple suspicious deaths during Senate intelligence briefings and Defense Committee consultations. Of course, Deputy Director Rodriguez, Marcus replied, though he felt the familiar surge of methamphetamine-induced paranoia and criminal desperation that accompanied any official scrutiny of his Senate operations by federal law enforcement officers who possessed the training and resources to detect evidence of arms trafficking and systematic murder disguised as terrorist attacks or foreign intelligence operations targeting American government officials and defense contractors. National security and defense integrity are always my highest priorities, and I want to cooperate with any investigation that might help protect American interests and ensure that defense programs operate according to all applicable national security standards and constitutional requirements. Deputy Director Rodriguez consulted detailed reports from counterterrorism investigators and defense intelligence analysts that showed patterns of unauthorized weapons transfers and government official deaths that suggested systematic criminal activity rather than random terrorist attacks or legitimate foreign intelligence operations targeting American defense programs and national security personnel. Senator Blackwood, I've been investigating reports of weapons trafficking and unauthorized arms transfers that appear to be connected to defense programs overseen by your Senate committee, Deputy Director Rodriguez said with the investigative precision that had made her successful in solving complex counterterrorism cases. 14 individuals who were government officials or defense contractors involved in classified programs under your committee's jurisdiction have died under suspicious circumstances, with several of these deaths occurring after the victims had discovered evidence of irregular weapons transfers or had questioned unauthorized defense contracts during classified briefings. The federal investigator's identification of the trafficking patterns and her recognition of the timing correlation between discovery of criminal activities and government official deaths confirmed Marcus's worst fears that his criminal activities had been analyzed and connected to a systematic elimination of suspicious intelligence operatives and exploitation of Senate authority for international arms trafficking and terrorist coordination operations affecting American national security. Marcus's response was swift and deadly, as he realized that eliminating Deputy Director Rodriguez was essential for protecting his criminal enterprise and preventing exposure of his systematic arms trafficking and murder operations. Deputy Director Rodriguez, I think there may be some misunderstanding about the complex nature of classified defense operations and the unfortunate reality that government officials working on sensitive national security programs sometimes become targets of foreign terrorism despite the most advanced security protocols in counterintelligence protection, Marcus said, while discreetly activating a concealed chemical weapon system that he had installed in his office using classified military technology for emergency elimination of federal law enforcement threats. Perhaps we could discuss these concerns in my classified briefing room, where I can demonstrate the security procedures that might explain these tragic incidents. Senate intelligence operations involve the highest levels of national security classification that might appear suspicious to those unfamiliar with international terrorism threats and foreign intelligence targeting of American defense officials. Deputy Director Rodriguez agreed to examine Marcus's classified security procedures, not realizing that the senator was leading her to a secure briefing room where previous murders had been committed and where Marcus planned to kill her using weaponized nerve agents obtained through his terrorist network contacts that would cause rapid death while appearing to be foreign chemical weapons, attack targeting American counterterrorism officials. Marcus's plan involved convincing Deputy Director Rodriguez to review specific classified defense materials while explaining national security procedures, then activating his concealed chemical weapon system to release concentrated nerve agents throughout the sealed briefing room, causing immediate death while appearing to be sophisticated foreign terrorism attack rather than deliberate murder by a senator protecting his arms, trafficking, and terrorist coordination operations. But Marcus's carefully planned murder of the federal investigator was about to be prevented by the unexpected arrival of military intelligence officers who had been investigating defense security breaches and had identified connections to his systematic weapons trafficking activities. Colonel Michael Torres of the Defense Intelligence Agency's Counterintelligence Division had been conducting a comprehensive investigation into classified weapons security breaches and political corruption operations that exploited congressional defense oversight to facilitate international arms trafficking and eliminate potential witnesses to weapons diversion affecting American military readiness and global security operations. Colonel Torres specialized in investigating military security crimes and had developed expertise in tracking political corruption networks that compromised classified defense programs while conducting systematic elimination of threats to international arms trafficking operations affecting national security and military effectiveness. The military investigation had been initiated by reports from multiple defense intelligence agencies and weapons security monitors who had noticed patterns of suspicious arms transfers and government official deaths that suggested organized criminal networks were infiltrating congressional defense oversight to facilitate weapons trafficking while eliminating potential witnesses through sophisticated terrorist attack methods disguised as foreign intelligence operations targeting American defense officials. Colonel Torres had been conducting surveillance of Marcus's weapons access patterns and Senate activities and had documented evidence of systematic methamphetamine procurement, involvement in arms trafficking, and suspicious patterns of government official deaths that suggested his Senate authority was being used for organized criminal activity rather than legitimate congressional defense oversight and national security protection. "Senator Marcus Blackwood, I'm Colonel Torres with the Defense Intelligence Agency," he announced as he entered the classified briefing room where Marcus was preparing to poison Deputy Director Rodriguez with nerve agents. "I have military intelligence warrants for your arrest on charges of systematic arms trafficking, classified weapons diversion, conspiracy to commit treason, conspiracy to aid international terrorism, and multiple counts of first-degree murder related to your systematic exploitation of Senate Defense Authority for criminal weapons trafficking activities and terrorist coordination operations affecting American national security." Marcus's reaction to the military intelligence officer's intervention was a combination of political authority, confusion, and desperate attempts to maintain his defense credibility, as he realized that federal law enforcement and military intelligence agencies at multiple levels had been investigating his trafficking activities and had connected them to systematic government official murders and international terrorist coordination. His carefully maintained reputation as a respected senator had failed to protect him from comprehensive investigation by agencies with expertise in defense security and international arms trafficking affecting American military operations and global security. "Colonel Torres, there must be some serious misunderstanding about legitimate congressional defense oversight and the complex national security requirements involved in classified weapons programs that require careful coordination with international allies and advanced security measures to protect American military superiority," Marcus said frantically, while abandoning his plan to poison Deputy Director Rodriguez and attempting to preserve some semblance of political professionalism despite the overwhelming evidence against his criminal activities. "I am a United States Senator with 31 years of experience providing congressional oversight for America's most critical defense programs and national security operations. All of my committee activities comply with established constitutional standards and defense regulations designed to ensure American military readiness and national security protection." Deputy Director Rodriguez looked absolutely stunned as she realized how close she had come to being murdered by the senator she had been investigating for arms trafficking. Her counterterrorism investigation had not only exposed Marcus's trafficking and murder operation, but it also prevented her own death at the hands of a killer who had been using Senate authority as cover for systematic elimination of government officials and federal law enforcement threats. The comprehensive investigation that followed Marcus's arrest revealed the full scope of his criminal enterprise and the sophisticated methods he had developed to exploit Senate authority for systematic international arms trafficking and murder. Forensic analysis of Marcus's Senate operations revealed extensive evidence of his trafficking activities, including sophisticated encrypted communication systems for coordinating with international terrorist networks, detailed records of classified weapons sales worth billions of dollars, and comprehensive files containing classified military technology that had been transferred to hostile foreign governments and terrorist organizations threatening American national security and global stability. The investigation also uncovered Marcus's connections to international terrorist organizations and hostile foreign intelligence services who had been coordinating arms trafficking and political corruption operations while using his Senate committee access to obtain classified American military technology and eliminate potential witnesses through sophisticated terrorist attack methods disguised as foreign intelligence operations targeting American government officials. Most disturbing was the discovery of Marcus's detailed knowledge of classified weapons systems and terrorist operational methods, which he had used to develop increasingly sophisticated approaches for trafficking American military technology while eliminating government officials who discovered his criminal operations or threatened to expose his terrorist coordination activities affecting American national security and international military stability. Senator Marcus Blackwood was ultimately convicted of 15 counts of first-degree murder, systematic international arms trafficking, conspiracy to commit treason, conspiracy to aid international terrorism, classified weapons diversion, conspiracy to commit organized criminal enterprise activities, and numerous other charges related to his exploitation of Senate Defense Authority for criminal weapons trafficking activities and international terrorist coordination operations affecting American national security and global military stability. The conviction sent unprecedented shockwaves throughout Washington's political and defense establishments, prompting immediate reforms in congressional security oversight, defense contractor monitoring, and political addiction prevention measures designed to protect American national security from exploitation by corrupted political officials involved in international criminal activities affecting global military stability and defense readiness. Several other senators and congressional officials were investigated for similar criminal activities, resulting in enhanced oversight of Defense Committee operations and new requirements for weapons tracking, security verification, and national security protection measures that made it more difficult for international criminal networks to exploit congressional authority for systematic arms trafficking and terrorist coordination. Deputy Director Rodriguez and Colonel Torres received recognition for their collaborative investigation and became specialists in political corruption investigation, developing new techniques for identifying arms trafficking operations and protecting American national security from exploitation by corrupted political officials and international terrorist infiltration. CIA Director Robert Sterling and other surviving government officials required extensive security protection and classified briefing verification to overcome the trauma of learning that their trusted senator had been systematically trafficking weapons and murdering government officials while exploiting his Senate authority for international criminal activities affecting American national security and global military stability. The Congressional Defense Oversight System implemented comprehensive new integrity protocols designed to protect national security from exploitation by corrupted political officials. The case prompted comprehensive changes in congressional defense regulation, including mandatory security investigations and addiction screening for all senators with Defense Committee access, enhanced oversight of weapons programs and classified briefings, real-time monitoring of defense contractor interactions and international communications, and new reporting procedures for suspicious political activities involving national security violations or potential terror risk coordination indicators. Marcus's conviction also led to increased cooperation between congressional oversight agencies and federal law enforcement organizations investigating international terrorism, with new protocols designed to identify political systems that might be exploited for systematic criminal activities, while eliminating potential witnesses to political corruption and national security violations. The Congressional Defense Oversight Community and broader national security establishment implemented revolutionary new integrity measures, including enhanced screening procedures for political officials, comprehensive national security protection programs, mandatory reporting of suspicious political activities, and improved training for recognizing signs of methamphetamine addiction and international terrorist involvement among senators and congressional staff, with access to classified defense information. 5 years after Marcus's conviction and life imprisonment, Washington's political community continued to implement safeguards designed to protect American national security from senators who might abuse their positions of ultimate defense authority for criminal purposes affecting international military stability and global security operations. The senator, who had promised to protect American interests and defend national security, had instead used his political authority and defense committee access to commit systematic arms trafficking and murder while exploiting the highest levels of American political power for international terrorist coordination that threatened the very foundations of national security and global military stability. However, his crimes had been thoroughly exposed, and his victims had found justice through the dedication of federal investigators who refused to accept terrorism-related deaths as mere foreign intelligence operations targeting American government officials. Senator Marcus Blackwood's final campaign had been permanently concluded by the electoral mandate of federal justice, where he would serve multiple life sentences without possibility of parole, proving that even political officials who attempted to exploit their congressional authority for criminal gain could be identified, investigated, and brought to justice when dedicated federal law enforcement and military intelligence agencies worked together to protect American national security from predatory political corruption and international terrorist infiltration. The senator's final campaign had ended with his permanent removal from office, serving as a lasting reminder that those entrusted with the highest political authority must never abuse that sacred constitutional responsibility, and the political officials who would exploit congressional trust and defense authority for criminal gain will ultimately face the full consequences of their betrayal of political integrity and American national security. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.